Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of The Truth is Barrel Proof. Here we drink whiskey, we learn a little bit about folks, about their whiskey, about their story, and hopefully at the end of the show, we know a little bit more than the average person about people and their spirits. I'm Jack Bigadoo, I'm your host, and today it's always funny when you have to talk to a friend because you know the person, you know who they are, but you don't know them in the professional environment in the sense of you're bringing them on to talk to them and you used to just shoot the shit, like we say. But now you got to ask them question and bring them on an interview because they told you about a whiskey. And a few months ago, my friend Erin reached out to me and say, "Have you heard of this whiskey?" And she gave the name, and I said, "Absolutely not. Never heard of it." And she said, "There's a very interesting story behind the whiskey." And I said, "I love interesting stories. That's why I have the Truth is Barrel Proof." So I told her we are gonna bring her on. She's the head of community. She's the head. She's the one who tells the story around taste, make sure people taste the whiskey. And I'm gonna let her introduce herself and tell you more about herself, ladies and gentlemen. If you hear, make sure you share, you like, you click, you do all the things that we do, and share this with your friends so they can come hear more. And if you're watching the recast or listening to the recast later, know that your support matters to us and you are here and we love you for being here and listening to the story. And without further ado, let's bring on Erin Petrey. Erin, how are you doing?
Hi, Jack. Hi.
I often
Oh my gosh, does that mean that before you knew me as unprofessional?
no, not unprofessional, but more as a friend. Is that it had nothing to do really. We met around whiskey, but we really did not meet as I have people I know that are brand ambassadors, and that's the role I know them in. I don't necessarily have to call them and say, "Hey, I
Yeah.
have this thing in my head. What do you think?" Right? I can't do that. So for you, I can. So today, I can't do that. I have to put you on the hot seat, just like every one of my guests. Hear about your story, hear about the whiskey,
Okay.
and purposefully, because it's you, I did not touch the whiskey. I did not try it because I want people to know my
Oh my God.
honest reaction to this whiskey. So, for the people that don't know you, right? For the people that don't know how you came about being head of community of this whiskey called Dr. Gonzo or Fear and Loading, tell people who you
Yep.
are. Who are you, Aaron? Who are you?
Who am I? Who are any of us, Jack? So, yeah, my name's Erin Petrey. My bourbon story goes way back. So my bourbon story actually starts growing up as a kid. I grew up in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, on a farm in central Kentucky down the road from the Four Roses Distillery. And I always had a fascination for bourbon and kind of how it was part of Kentucky and like who we were. And like really, it shows who we are as like our spirit as Americans. It tells the American story. And another aspect of me is that I've always been a writer. My dad was like a writer. I was a writer. And I've always had an affinity for telling stories in a very unique, very sort of authentic way. I have a very clear voice. That's one of the things that I love to do at bourbonbanter.com, where I am a senior contributor. So if you know my work from Bourbon Banter, I'm always writing the very painfully honest reviews with a little bit of tongue in cheek. And then the other things I do, I reinvigorated the chapter in DC of Bourbon Women. I'm also on the board of Bourbon Women. I've been on the board of Kentucky Society of Washington for over a decade. I do all the bourbon things essentially. Um, and the way that this particular opportunity came to me was actually through my writing. So, Dr. Matt Patel, who is the founder of Gonzo Whiskey, he found my one of my articles and started reading all my work and was like, "Oh my gosh, you're very honest. You also have a little bit of that sort of Gonzo journalism style to you." And I'd always known about Hunter S. Thompson as a seminal figure, as a journalist, as an author. I know like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. We all know it. Um, but I wasn't like an accolade like of Hunter. And so I knew who he was and I thought it was cool, but Matt reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be kind of an advisor to the brand? And so I was for a little while. And then he said, you know what? I think we're ready to do this big, and brought me on, officially as the head of community. And really, my role is to build a community around whiskey, right? Because that's the best part of whiskey is the community. It's the friends we build, and the friends we make along the way and we keep along the way, and really the stories we have to tell. So Gonzo is all about telling stories, bringing people together, and just being irreverent and honest with each other.
Okay. That that I never thought a day in my life I would say journalism and whiskey, even though in every movie I've seen since I was a kid, journalists are always drinking some whiskey somewhere after a long day.
And it's hard.
After a long day of investigation, waiting for a source in the middle of a bar out of nowhere. That as a kid watching American movie, that's always what I've seen journalists chain smoking. I feel like journalists and cops were both kind of the same personality, that they have. But for people that are ignorant like me, or immigrants like me, you talked about fear and loathing in Vegas. What does that represent? What is that
Mhm.
about?
So actually, so Hunter S. Thompson's first piece that came out that was really called Gonzo journalism. So the concept of Gonzo journalism puts the journalist as the protagonist. It gets a little bit bigger than life. It's definitely embellished. But it also talks about it's really storytelling, kind of that first person sort of vista that the reader kind of follows you through. And it's a bit fantastical, but it's also there to be really raw and dig at a not just kind of what the story is, like objective journalism, because Hunter really hated that. He's like, why would you just be objective? Like, yes, you need to tell the facts, but also you need to convey the feeling around that. And so the Kentucky Derby was decadent and depraved was really his first piece that showed that. He's from Louisville, but the thing that put him on the map was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This was all about how he was supposed to go and like he was actually supposed to cover this dirt bike race in the desert. But he ended up it's called A Savage Journey to the Heart of the American Dream. He's like, I want to find the American dream. Because he was writing in the 70s when, there was Nixon, the Vietnam War. I mean, everything was going on. The counterculture movement was really at its peak. Everything was kind of reaching a fever pitch when folks were, there was the drug movement, there was the feminist movement. I mean, there were all of these things, the civil rights movement was still coming to a head. And so there was a lot going on when Hunter was being very formative. And so Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas really shows the decadence and depravity of humanity as well as himself. So one of the things in Fear and Loathing is that they're always doing an insane amount of drugs, drinking an insane amount of alcohol. Hunter was known to dabble in some psychedelics and some drugs and a lot of alcohol. We do say drink responsibly, of course. We're all about the spirit and legacy of Hunter S. Thompson, but we do know that he did imbibe a little too much. But my mom, it's very funny. She watched the movie starring Johnny Depp called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, right? And she was like, that was insane, Erin. That was insane. They're just on drugs and there's just sex and there's crazy. And I was like, yeah, but you know what? That's kind of that seedy underbelly of America that we don't really like to talk about. And that's what really was like in some places where, it's just drugs are rampant, crime and prostitution. And like, it's just talking about the things that might not seem as shiny on the surface. And so the concept of Fear and Loathing, he also wrote Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, which was a compilation of essays around two different campaigns he covered. And it's all around just really talking about, once again, that humanity.
Okay. I, you know, do you wish you were back in the 70s, maybe for a week or so? Because when I hear, obviously growing up in Africa, I know where this, my dad talks about the 70s and they're just out of school and they, just get ready to go to university. And it was the big, what do you call it? The bell pants. What do you call those bottom bells, big
Oh,
bell
bell
bottom
bottoms.
pants and smoking, and it was like the cool era, right? Drinking, doing drugs. Not that was not crazy. That was just a Saturday or a Tuesday, right? But it was also about life, really wanting more out of life. I understand sometimes when those people say this generation is not doesn't want anything out of life, and I'm like, oh, maybe you're right. We didn't have that drive, but I love that. Now, how did that transcribe into whiskey? Is it because location, location, location? Or is it because somewhere he said, I'm bored. I want to do something. Let me do what Kentuckians do and have a whiskey. Because remember, a lot of brands are coming on the market, right? A lot of brands are coming on the market.
Mhm.
And usually the concept is always the same. Why? Why are you here? Right. So
Yeah, totally.
that's I guess my question. Why? Why Gonzo Whiskey and why are
Yeah.
they
So answer your first question, though, I do think that we are all a product of the time in which we live in which we were born. We can always long for different eras. Would I love to just like dip into another era and see what it was like? Totally. Right. But it's like, I like, I'm here where I am. I'm a child of the 80s, right? Like, so, we were drinking out of garden hoses and stuff, and I'm fine. But, it's like, everyone's definitely just a product of where they are. And I think they tend to romanticize other eras for good or for bad. Right. But remember, in the 70s, what did the 70s lead into? The 70s led into the AIDS epidemic, which was horrifying, and people didn't know what was going on, and people were scared, right? So people get scared, and there's new things all the time, just like we had the pandemic, just like we're going to have things every single year that are new and scary to us. But the reason why a whiskey is, so Matt, who's our founder, he made friends with Anita Thompson, who is Hunter's widow. And, we are in partnership with Hunter's estate. And so what we thought was like, so he loved wild turkey. He also loved Chivas Regal. I'm probably hicking that up a little. I don't know if
this
it's
is
Chivas
Shivas
Regal or I don't know.
Shivas
I'm like
Regal,
Chivas. I'm
like
like,
the
hey,
people from
Chivas
Pernod
Regal. I'm
like to
like, hey,
call
you
it.
got that
It's
shit.
Shivas Regal.
I'm like, hey, you got that Chivas Regal? No, but so it's the whiskey is really because Hunter loved whiskey, but also because whiskey also plays homage to really where he's from too, right? He's from Louisville, so we have a bourbon, we have a rye, and also like there's just really no other type of spirit out there that really speaks to the essence of who Hunter is. Did he drink gin and beer and tequila? Yeah, but oop, you're a little
Yeah,
half
I'm here.
there.
Don't worry. I'll be right in.
Okay, good, good, good. And so this is, but I think that also whiskey is the thing that, man, this is some real truth serum right here. Whiskey is truth serum, right? You have enough whiskeys with people and you really kind of get to know them on a very visceral, deep level. And that's why I also think like my whiskey friends are like my closest friends too, because I'm like, we have pours, and for some reason, there's something about this brown liquor that just leads to those connections. If you allow them to happen and you open yourself up to those connections, they can happen and those things are lasting.
That I cannot. 7 almost 8 years ago, I thought I was coming here just to, just to kind of um show people what I have as whiskey. And next thing I know, I have a huge
Mhm.
community. I met people like you, right? I met you,
Yeah,
it's one of those things
yeah,
that are just very incredible. And like you say, if you let it happen and you want to build that thing around people, this community. My favorite shirt always is "Whiskey's for everybody" because doesn't matter where you're from, who your friends are,
nope.
what's your background. As long as you pour in this brown liquor, we friends, and that's somewhere I feel like that's the entity of what really happens around whiskey that a lot of people don't talk about or don't understand. People are too busy sometimes talking about the bottle versus what the concept of whiskey is. So it's great.
Yep.
Now he, your founder, Hunter comes in. They're thinking about whiskey. Why did they go How did they come about the sourcing, right? When it comes to whiskey, I want to talk as a novice versus an expert because I just don't want to jump in
Yep.
right away and just go, oh, this is source whiskey, whatnot, and you know what people always look down sometime on source whiskey, but obviously this from my what I call my novice way of looking at this. I see that it's been distilled in Columbus, Ohio, and bottle
Mhm.
for Gonzo. So I'm assuming, uh,
Yes.
and now I'm gonna let you expand on that. I'm assuming that this is somewhere from Columbus, Ohio. I don't know where, and
Mhm.
bottle for you. Why Columbus? Aren't you going against the grain of Kentucky, which is the origin of the man himself?
So it's not sourced, it's
Okay.
contract distilled. So we are
Thanks
contract
for
distilled.
bringing
Yep.
that up
So
because
this is our mash
that
bill.
that is very
Yeah, no,
important to know.
absolutely. So we are contract. Yep. No, absolutely. So it is contract distilled, and the place where we contract distill it, there was a relationship between our founder and them, and let's be real, like Kentucky and Ohio. Do I think that Kentucky bourbon is the best bourbon on the planet? Yeah, because I'm from Kentucky, and like literally, like I mean, come on. I think it would I feel like I might like turn to stone if I say it's not. But there's great whiskey made everywhere, right? And Ohio is just a couple mile or a couple hours up the road from Kentucky, and it does also benefit from that amazing same microclimate that we have in Kentucky, which is, those really hot summers, those really cold winters. Water is a little different, but it's similar enough. So it is going to be roughly around that same type of profile, right? And the one of the interesting things too is that so for our rye in particular, this one is a 95% rye and 5% malted rye, and it uses a pumpernickel rye. And so it has a really cool flavor that I think is just so much fun. It's got that nice, like kind of toothsomeness to it almost. And then, so we did a wheated bourbon as well, because that's something, even though our wheated bourbon, you usually think wheated bourbon, a little softer, a little sweeter, but we did bottle it at 103. So it does pack a little bit more of a punch than maybe your traditional wheater that you'll get there on the market. So it's the location all had to do with kismet, really, and relationships, with where our founder was. Like, our founder lives in Cincinnati, right? So he was in Aspen a long time, and then now he's in Cincinnati. So that's kind of where the Columbus came
Absolutely.
in. But
Yeah,
it's
but
contract distilled. Mhm.
I'm engaging myself in serious journalism here, just like
Yeah, I got
Dr.
answers.
Gonzo
I got questions.
himself. So I needed to ask all
Yeah,
the
Dr.
questions.
Gonzo.
So
Yeah, but Dr. Gonzo, note that Hunter was not a real doctor. That was a
hey,
self-appointed
that's
doctor.
where
And
you
Dr.
know
Yeah,
the
so
party was real, is when you call yourself,
oh yeah.
doctor. I call myself chocolate drop all the time because in my mind,
I think if I had like any kind of title, like honorific, I feel like I'd be a duchess, because it doesn't come with like the queen, the princess. That's like far too it's too much work. Duchess, like, you still get all the benefits, but like you're not as important. You're kind of like middle tier.
I never thought about that. That is real. That is real. We did bourbon 103.
So we gonna drink
Let's
some
let's
whiskey?
let's try the first whiskey. I'm gonna show the folks what the bottle.
I think we should do the
Okay,
rye first,
okay,
actually, because that wheated bourbon is going to be
okay,
103
okay.
proof.
You're the boss.
Normally, I would say drink the wheated before the rye,
You
but because
are
of the proof, I
you
think
are
maybe
the
we should start
boss.
the
I will go as you prescribe, so I can know how to proceed. So this is, and let me show a little bit as I talk about this.
Yeah.
Um, this is the rye, and the rye
Yeah. So straight rye
it's
whiskey.
95
Mhm.
95 proof, 47.5% ABV. And he
Mhm.
says on it, buy the ticket, take the rye. I mean, I like the play on that.
Yeah.
Buy the ticket, take the rye is a straight rye.
And that's a quote that Hunter said, which really means like, listen, just live life, experience life, live the life to the fullest, buy the ticket, get on that dang train and ride, ride, ride.
All right.
That's how you're really going to experience. That's how you're going to get the real
All right.
experience.
So tell me a little more about this rye that we are having now.
Yeah. So, there's a couple of things, right? So we wanted to make sure that our portfolio was well rounded, right? So we wanted to make a portfolio that had both a rye as well as a bourbon, right? Because really, frankly, you can't have one without the other these days. But like I said, it is a 95% rye, 5% malted rye instead of a malted barley, right? So, really what this is a product that has been blended specifically for us, like created specifically for us. And so yeah, so that's pretty much it. You're going to get like some of those cinnamon notes that you'll normally get in rye, like those baking spices, etc. But I find that it has a real uniqueness to it that you don't necessarily get in other ryes. And that's really that pumpernickel and that malted pumpernickel rye coming through. So
The nose is like walking into a fresh garden, just a blooming garden
yeah,
on the nose,
yeah, it's got a lot of that herbaceous spice to it.
um, with a little bit of that orchard feeling. Um,
Yeah, like some
yeah,
stone fruit.
um, major orchard
By the way,
orchard
plums are in
orchard
season right
feeling.
now.
That's
They're
what I would
lovely.
call it. Is you it gives you a little bit of that.
When you go into an orchard, what I find is you have both the nice sort of like fresh fruit along with the sort of like rotting fruit almost. And when I say rotting fruit, I more mean like not from like a nasty perspective, but like breaking down sugars. So it's like you get those kind of the darker sweetness aspects, as well as sort of the unripe fruit or
That's
the
that's
perfect ripe
that's
fruit.
you know what, you just described it perfectly, because when I tell people that it felt like walking in an orchard, people don't understand. But there's something about fresh apples or fresh,
I grew up in the
fresh
country.
stone fruit, and getting that hot stone fruit where you get literally almost like those overripe apple. It's almost like a
Exactly.
disgustingly sweet thing that hits you right away. So makes sense.
It's almost cloying, but not necessarily like in
Correct.
an unpleasant
All
way.
right. Cheers. The first thing I would say is that it's not aggressive. I love the fact that it's not
No.
aggressive. I love the fact that it's very, very approachable. It is. Have you ever had something and you're like, this is solid? This is what I expect a good ride to taste like. It doesn't have notes
Yeah.
that
And I'm hoping
actually,
that people enjoy this
it's
rye.
not, it doesn't, some rye obviously have notes that stand out too much. And maybe somebody's favorite because they like it a little spicier or they like it a little more herbaceous. But this has a perfect balance between that spice, herbaceousness, and that sweetness. Nice, bright, like fresh green apple sweetness on the front, mid palate, a little bit of those cinnamon, finishing with a little bit of just a little bit of that cloviness in the back. Easy breezy, beautiful cover
Yep.
girl is just that, that very, very approachable. I think this, if somebody doesn't even like rye, they can try this.
Yep. And so this is around 6 years right now.
Only 6 years?
Mhm.
Hmm. That pumpernickel definitely have a bring a twist at the finish. That
Yep.
pumpernickel definitely bring
Yep.
that twist at the finish. Like I'm looking at this, I'm like, there's something at the finish there that I cannot, you know, but
It almost has like, so one of the things with pumpernickel, there's like a little bit of like earthiness to it as well. Um, Almost like it's like a little bit earthy, but like almost like a cacao
mhm,
level
mhm.
earthy, right? Like unsweetened cacao, like
Yeah.
espresso, that sort of thing. But it still has that sort of like breadiness, but alongside the spice and a little bit of those like earthy, dark notes.
I actually love
I
it.
like the
I love it.
Pellegrino rim.
What's
Okay.
the we'll get to it when I will ask obviously about the MSRP, but just tasting it. What is the MSRP on it?
69.
Okay. Okay.
And we're available at gonzowhiskey.com. We ship to all states but control states. And we don't ship now to Hawaii or Alaska yet. We are also available
Don't
in
worry
liquor
about it. I
stores and
got you.
on premise in yeah, oh yeah, but we're in liquor stores and on premise in Kentucky and Colorado. We will be launching in the DC market as well as Tennessee in the coming months.
So first thing you want to do,
But we're like trying to we're just going
No,
low and slow here.
it's all right
We're
for a
kind of
new
like
brand. I
guerrilla.
feel like a lot of people do that crash and burn thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, but this right now, I want it in the Manhattan. I want this right in the
Yeah,
Manhattan.
it's really
I can only imagine how like tantalizing it will be in the Manhattan, giving you a little bit of those notes that you actually think about. You're like, okay, right.
and if you want to get kind of that like real like kind of huntery experience, put some like tobacco bitters in it too.
Hard
Or if you
chocolate.
really want to go, if you want to go, so here's the fun thing though about Hunter. Hunter loved grapefruits, right? So one of the things I also did, so this isn't grapefruit, but we served
Hmm.
palomas as
Hmm.
well at our launch party. But our launch party in Kentucky on May 1st on Thurby, which is the Thursday before Derby, our like our signature cocktail, I called it the Naked and Infamous. The Naked and Famous is usually made with mezcal. I did it with rye instead. So we did rye, Aperol, lemon, and then we also rimmed it with something called Buzz Buttons, made for my friends. They come from my friend's farm in West Virginia, Wild Arts farm, and it's this thing where it kind of gives you it numbs your mouth. It's related to like Szechuan peppercorn. It has that sort of numbing texture to it. So I love this actually in a brighter citrus cocktail too. It stands up super well. And especially with those like buzz buttons, it's super fun because it really plays with your
You know
palate.
what? Who? I guess before I tried the bourbon, the question is, who is in charge of the blending?
So that is Sam Schmelzer. So he was at MGP actually
Okay,
originally.
and now he's with
Yeah.
y'all.
I mean, he
Okay,
does work with us.
because
Yep.
I'm always curious about the blender when it comes to balancing whiskey, because somewhere in my head I'm like, okay, I want to know the mindset that the person had when they're blending this whiskey to actually bring that thing. This is very balanced. I cannot, and believe it or
Yeah.
not, this is my first sip of the week. So definitely, I have a fresh
Oh my God.
bottle.
Brighter than mine. No, so Sam has his own thing now, right? So he was at MGP for over a decade. So a lot of those amazing blends that you love and those sourced products that you got over the pandemic, a lot of those were created by Sam. So Sam is our blender.
That I'm glad. That's a beautiful, nice blend. Let's talk about how you guys were not afraid for your first bourbon. You guys were audacious. That's the word I can use. That's my word of the day is audacious. Choosing to actually not be safe like most brand, to be under 50 proof, to maybe not try to quote unquote ruffle feathers, but you went immediately for the 103, which is also an odd number. People do the 107, they do 112. You went for 103, which
Yep.
is an odd number, but works. And
Yep.
tell me a little bit about the weed.
Yeah, so the weeded, so it's funny, it's like the weeded bourbon is one of the things. It's not always my favorite, right? When it comes like I'm usually a high rye person, right? But weeded is something that really does appeal to more palates, especially people who aren't really super into bourbon. But because we did want to do weeded, we were like, we're gonna make this a little different. We're gonna make this more irreverent. So that's why we did it at 103. We did it over 100 proof. And the 103, it's just kind of that's how it's sort of like panned out, right? That's really where the flavor hit for us. So this one we are trying to actually get to be 8 years old. This is a blend right now of 4 to 6 year, and we are trying to get this one up to
I
eight
mean, it's a
years
little
actually.
light for
So,
bourbon, right?
well, I mean, that really depends, I think, to be honest with you. I mean, bourbon is always like it can be, it just depends on, the conditions of the barrel. It can depend on age. Like I said, this is 4 to 6 years. And so we know it, I mean, honestly, like, is it a little bit high for a younger whiskey? Sure. But like we are a newer brand, right? And anyone who is a newer brand knows that like this
It
stuff
is
is
expensive, and
expensive to
that's
do,
one thing.
y'all.
I give,
So
I usually tell people to always give grace to new brands. The truth here is, being if you never started a business, you cannot judge a new brand. The truth is, you start, you have all these
yeah,
expensive, you have whiskey you buy, and you have, you have bottling and all these expensive, and you want to be fair also to your customer. And till there is an investor behind you and somebody throwing money behind you, you really cannot, don't know how this is going to go, and you're trying to be just in the middle, and most of the time you're breaking
yep.
even. You're not even making, if you're
If
lucky.
you're lucky, you're
I
breaking it.
So for that reason, I always tell people we have to give grace, and serious grace, to whiskey brands that are starting, right? The pricing will never be
Yeah.
your bottom shelf bottle that you buy every day. That's never going to be that ever. That's why I get upset,
Yep.
because you guys are
No.
not trying to sell this as a, what the okey doke that people do to people. They come like, look at this fancy bottle we have. This is a premium whiskey, so we can justify selling it to you for an arm and a leg to make up for our shit. But then, obviously, this one, you guys kept it simple. You can look at the bottle design, very simple, easy drinking, stand out. You can hold it. You can, and I love simplicity and being honest with your client. Say, hey, you're helping us out by buying this because we are trying to put this out. And if you like it,
Yep.
by buying it, you're encouraging us to do better. So I love that you're not that. So this is my first official sip of
We love it.
Fear and Loathing weeded bourbon.
Yep. And so this is going to be a 74% corn, 20% wheat, 6% malted barley.
Very sweet, but with a back of cherries, kind of those red fruit in the back of it,
Yep.
but doesn't
Kind of a
nose
little, almost like Luxardo syrup.
doesn't nose like 103. Okay, cheers.
Cheers. To me, it tastes a little bit like trail mix, like the kind that has like dried cherries and like maybe some like cashews and pecans, maybe just like a little bit of those like dark chocolate nibs. It has a little bit of that, when you throw like a handful of trail mix in your mouth, like you all of a sudden get like a burst of the nutty and then a burst of the chocolate and then a little bit of the cherry. That's kind of how it unfolds to me.
And what's the MSRP on this? Both for
69, both for
69.
69.
Okay. It grows on you. It opens up slowly.
It does. It's one of those things where like the first sip is actually pretty, it's not super
Correct, correct.
representative. I Where was I? Oh, I was at a sushi place. I was at an omakase place the other night, and they said, when I was tasting a glass of sake, and they said, make sure you taste it twice. I was like, I'm a professional, excuse me. But I was like, yes, that's so important, right? Like you taste it once, that's kind of your throwaway, right? And then you taste it again, and that's really your first taste. And then you kind of build on it, right? Because that's when every single part of your palate is really going to start to resonate with the different types of flavors, whether it's those more umami flavors, whether it is more of those dark or earthy flavors, sweet, wood, maybe some of those like more like saddle leather or like tobacco notes. Like those are the kind of things that start to kind of unwind on the palate as you take more and more sips.
I love the feeling on my tongue. I love when
I was like, don't make me say
the
it. I'm sorry.
oiliness that gets on your tongue,
Yeah.
that oiliness that wrapped up around the tongue, for me is something that makes me um like I think in my head sometimes when people talk to me, obviously based on my audience, people always ask me, oh, which whiskey can I pair with food? Which whiskey can I pair with cigars? Which whiskey can I do with this? And I
Yep.
recommend whiskeys to people based on how it feels on the mouth feel mostly before even the taste.
Yeah.
And this, if I had to have it neat, I'm thinking a nice dessert cigar would definitely work with this because
Mm.
the fact that this oiliness is wrapping around my tongue, I just want a piece of chocolate, right? So, or so if I had a cigar right now, that smokiness is gonna really work well with this. So
Yeah.
it's gonna take a little bit of growing as you actually aging it a little more. It's gonna get a
It.
character, but I always say
Yeah.
you know good whiskey at the beginning of the whiskey, not when it's already old and fancy and everybody likes it because it's much older. And for where it stands, for the age you're telling me, this is a solid whiskey. It's a solid whiskey. It's
Thank you. It has
correct,
staying
correct.
power, right? Yeah. So actually, so at Bourbon Women, our annual conference is next week, Symposium in Louisville. And one of the bourbon dinners is actually, we are sponsoring one of the bourbon dinners. This is the second year we're doing it. Actually, last year we did one and we weren't actually even officially released yet to the market, but we did one, kind of special. Um, but we are doing a full pairing dinner. And another thing that I'm really excited about is that Art Eatables, Kelly Ramsey, her brand in Louisville. If you're ever in Louisville, definitely go down to Main Street and check her out. She's got
You say
amazing
art eatable?
truffles.
I'll be
Um,
there for KBF. I can stop by and say hello.
oh yeah, tell
Okay.
her that Erin sent you. Yeah, KBF, you'll definitely have it there. Actually, I don't know. She might actually be at KBF. She might be there. But no, so they do like truffles of all kinds of different whiskeys, right? So they have everything from like Blanton's and like, I think they even have like some BTAC ones. It's kind of nutty, like Michter's, you name it. A lot of places do have her create things for them. We actually are having her do a special run of Gonzo truffles. So she is doing a Gonzo truffle set for the folks who
Okay.
are attending that, and maybe we'll do a special run of that as well. But Gonzo is available also for purchase at Art Eatables. They also have a tasting room in
Okay.
Main Street in Louisville, and you can buy the bottles there too. So we may do actually a truffle, a little
Okay.
truffle with her as
Okay.
well.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Um,
Yeah. This year, the theme of the dinner is the Kentucky Derby is
okay.
decadent and depraved, and so it's going to be. So we're going to have like a spin on a hot brown. So I think that this whiskey will work really well with that. Honestly, the hot brown is like such a slutty dish, right?
It,
Because
it
it's like
I've never had a
Mornay.
hot brown till no, I've never had
Yeah.
a hot brown till 2 years ago. Apparently it's a Kentucky thing. No,
Oh,
no,
I'm sorry. You haven't had a hot brown in
no, in
2
2 years. I haven't
years,
had a hot brown in 2 years. But also
but you have
I've had
eaten
it
one
three
before.
three years ago. 3 years
Okay.
ago,
Okay, that's
that was my
different.
first time ever having one. Apparently, it's a Kentucky thing, and it was one of those weird things because everybody was like, "Oh, you never had a hot brown? That's weird. You should have one." And I'm like, "Okay," and I've had it, and I realized it is the best food for a hangover cure. Like if you hungover, you need a hot brown.
So, do you know how the hot
No,
brown was created? So the Hot Brown is named after the Brown Hotel. So the Brown Hotel used to have a dance hall in the basement. And so what they used to do is they had tons of people come in. This was like in the early 1900s. And people would just like dance the night away, right? And they would drink and they would have fun and they'd be drunk. And, like after you've been like doing it at the club a while, you get a little tired and you get hungry and you work up a sweat. And they just needed something to eat. So the kitchen was like, well, oh my gosh, like what can we do? So they throw some like stale bread, like some white bread, whipped up a quick cheese sauce. They had leftover turkey and ham, and they just popped this open face sandwich together. And they were like, here you go, guys. And it took off like wildfire. So that is how it came out. So it actually came out. It was created as a food for
okay,
drunk
then that
people.
makes sense. Well, how I felt like this was the best thing for a hungover because
It's literally meant to soak up the alcohol. Of course, the state dish of Kentucky is Hey, here's something to soak up
That
booze.
is because I had it after a long night of drinking. It was early morning, and I was like, "This is the best
That's
thing
what
that I've ever had." After a long night of drinking, I need a hot brown. I think where would you say, since you're a Kentucky girl, where would you say I'm going to KBF? I can wake up in the morning and go have a hot brown as part of my breakfast.
well, you got to go to the Brown Hotel. You got to get it from
Okay,
the
all
source,
right.
man.
Oh,
You got to have, if you've never had a hot brown from the Brown Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky, you haven't had the true hot brown. Now, some places make it maybe fancier? Maybe, right? Because I've seen it with biscuits. I've seen it with, oh my gosh, I've seen ones with like Iberico ham. I've seen them with like truffles. And sometimes people put tomatoes and some people put like cheddar cheese. And I'm like, no. Um, you have to have one from the Brown Hotel from the source first. Do other places make it better? Maybe. I don't know. I don't eat meat anymore, so I couldn't tell you. But I have had that there, eaten it since I was a kid. Like it is, you got to start at the Brown Hotel. You got to
okay.
start at the
That's
source.
that's on my list. And if you're listening, you have to stop at the Brown Hotel and grab yourself a
Mm.
hot brown. This is it's a thing. No one commented, but somebody actually had a comment say, "I've been looking for something new. I'm going to try to give it a try." Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I want you guys to understand this, Aaron. Before I ask you my last two questions, I ask every guest. I want you
Okay.
guys to know one thing: starting a whiskey brand is not an easy job. I don't care who you are; it's not an easy job. Um, the passion that comes behind starting a brand is the reason why I do what I do. I felt like when I came in the whiskey scene, no one knew my story. I had to tell my story over and over and over. I started The Truth is Barrel Proof. Again, the truth being barrel proof, meaning I want the raw identity of a whiskey to come on. As you can tell, my reaction is always immediate when I have whiskeys. The reason why is I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Erin didn't pay me to get on this interview. She just here because I
We ain't got no
she
money
so
anyway,
she told
so
me about the whiskey. I said, "Come on, let's talk about it, so the world can hear about it." So if you don't do anything else today, do me this favor. If you don't do anything else today, go copy this gonzowhiskey.com or go on Instagram, Gonzo Whiskey. Just type that and actually follow them. It may not be for you right now, or it may not be just what you want, or it may be something new for you to discover. But not every whiskey is for everybody, but every whiskey is worth at least a sip. So sometime I always tell people I don't buy a whiskey necessarily because of the hype behind it. I buy a whiskey because I know I'm
honestly, you
correct,
shouldn't buy a
right?
whiskey because of that.
I'm buying a whiskey because I know the history. If you love journalism, this is literally a talking piece for you. You when you start talking about Gonzo, Fear and Loathing, people will be like, you know what? I, I'm here to listen. No one, and I say no one ever bought a whiskey to actually say, oh, it was a beautiful bottle. No, no one. Everybody say, hey, I bought this because of X, Y,
Yes,
and
man.
Z. I bought something because it's X, Y, and Z. I tell every tasting I've ever done, no one cared about the bottle, no one cared about the proof, no one cared even about the whiskey as much as they care about the story behind. If next time I take Gonzo on a tasting, I'm like, oh, let's go back into the 70s. Think about every journalist that was freedom during all the chaos that happened. And now, we are celebrating somebody who actually looked through the bullshit and brought a little bit of joy to the folks, right? So that's really what the whiskey is about. So go on Instagram, go on their website, and buy a bottle. Even sometimes I tell people, buy a bottle, even just to hate it, right? Some people will usually go and say, no, I tell
Don't
people all
hate
the
it.
time. I said, you know what? I rather before the amount of people in the whiskey.
If you want to
That's what I'm
hate,
saying.
buy. Great, great. If you
Before
want
the
to throw
amount of
your
people
money away
that
out of hate,
don't
I
buy
love
a
that.
bottle, but yet turn around and start talking shit about a bottle, that's what annoys me. Because before I have an argument with
Yeah.
you, my first question to you is, did you buy the bottle? If you buy the bottle, you know what? Talk whatever. Talk your shit.
Buy the
Correct.
ticket, take the
Talk your
ride,
shit.
man.
So that's is important. So nice bottle. Okay, all right. People are loving the presentation. But for
Marketing
all
is
of you guys who
important. It
haven't
really
seen
truly
it,
is.
I'm gonna show you. These are the Fear and Loathing bottles. That's what that looks like. So my last two questions for you, Erin. Question number
Yes.
one: what does Gonzo slash Fear and Loathing looks like in the next 2 3 years? What should an average consumer that goes in today and buy Gonzo should be expecting for the next 2 3 years? What is the expectation?
Well, number one, obviously, we're going to be trying to expand to other markets. But the other thing is we are growing and maturing our brand as well as our whiskey. Like I said, we're trying to get the weeded to an 8 year. So we're going to be really excited once we hit that mark, and we'll be loud and proud about that. And so I'm really hoping that you can start to kind of like taste the journey through with us. We're also going to have limited time offerings every year. We're going to have a limited time offering around the Derby that is all about the Kentucky Derby is Decadent and Depraved, which is that middle bottle you showed, which comes in this like really lovely package. We do a reprint of Scanlon's monthly, which was actually the article itself. So this is the whole article, and then the bottle comes in this big thing. And then the other thing, we have a limited time offering called Owl Farm as well, where we're going to be doing other 10-year plus Kentucky blends or Kentucky single barrels, depending on what we want to do. And those are all going to be dedicated to different aspects of Hunter's life. And the thing is right now is that it's becoming really hard to talk to folks about issues about politics. Hunter wrote a lot about politics and the American dream and he was struggling what it meant to be American and what the American dream truly was. Nixon was his white whale, was his Moby Dick. He was his like greatest enemy, right? And now we are at this sort of crossroads in America where we are just struggling so hard with extremism on both sides. Like nobody's talking to each other. Everyone is so obsessed with labels, and we've lost our way in talking to each other about the issues that actually impact us day to day. And so, whenever I talk to people about politics, I'm always like, I don't want to hear the name of a political party. I don't want to hear the name of a politician. I just want to hear about how things impact you, your life, and how we can work together to actually change things. And that's what we want Gonzo to really bring to the table. We want people to have those conversations, right? We want people to have drop down dragouts. We want people to be able to have real talks fueled by just a little bit of
Thank
whiskey.
you so much. You could not put it any better. As you can tell, Erin is a writer. She knows how to put words together. Last but not least, my last question to every single brand on my channel before we close the show is: how can we,
Yeah.
as whiskey consumers, support you? What would you consider as support? Is it a like? Is it a share? Is it a follow? Is it a purchase? Is it a review? How can we, as a community and as whiskey lovers, help Gonzo become, in your mind, what he was meant to be?
I think it's exactly what I just said. It's buy a bottle, pop it down, invite your friends over. Buy one of each, right? Even better, right? Pop it down on the patio table, on the living room table, on the kitchen table. Invite a bunch of your friends over and just have some drinks and talk about. Don't like I It's so easy to start talking about like shit talking your friends or like, oh, did so and so do this, and gossiping. Have a real conversation about the real issues that we are having. And don't just talk about, like I said, don't talk about the parties, don't talk about like freaking like names. Talk about what you as a person, as a citizen, as someone with a voice and a life who matters, what you all can do, whether it is to your neighbor in your community, whether that community is your tiny neighborhood, whether it's your state, your city, anything. Just completely just get out of your comfort zone and have raw conversations. Lean into the Gonzo ethos. Have those conversations because we need to move forward and better talk to each other because we've lost our way in talking to each other face to face. I love the fact that I'm talking to you virtually and I have all of these amazing people sending comments to us. But we need to make sure that we are sitting down and having a whiskey together and having these conversations. So buy those bottles, have those conversations, and post about it and tell us what you learned. Tell us if you made a breakthrough, if you made a friend, or if you pissed somebody off, like that's Gonzo.
That is
Gonzo is
part of
about
that is part of the
our brand.
conversation as well. Yeah.
Yeah, our brand, the Hunter S. Thompson quote that we really lean into as a brand is, "Some may never live, but the crazy, they never die." You're never going to be remembered unless you do something that's a little outside your comfort zone. And even if that means having a hard conversation with whether it's you or your family or friends or your neighbors, you'll never truly live unless you lean into that crazy
I agree.
just a little bit.
100% agree. Like Erin said, that click on gonzowhiskey.com. You will actually find retailers. They are in Kentucky. They're expanding into the DMV area.
We're in
Colorado as
Colorado
well.
right now, so we're in Colorado as well as Kentucky, on the shelves right now. But you can get it online at gonzowhiskey.com for right now. Yeah, we're slowly expanding. Now, if you do want to if you are really interested in having us in your state, just shoot us a message. I'm at Bourbon Erin on Instagram and TikTok and everything. Bourbon Erin. Slide into my DMs. I full consent there. Also info at gonzowhiskey.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm actually on the other side of that email. So
You get to talk to Erin. That's why she's the lady I brought on to actually talk to us.
Oh, great. So yeah, we should be around in Colorado. If you actually shoot us an email, info at gonzowhiskey.com, I can tell you what stores we're in. I know we're definitely in and around Aspen, and we're growing out. So we should be in like Denver, Boulder, those folks. Yeah. So we do have a distributor out in Colorado. So we could make sure to get to you. We're trying to get like the whole like finder of retail finder on our website. It's just, we're getting there. We all have full-time jobs.
Somebody on Instagram say they want you to come to Texas because they say Texas. They're all the people are in Texas. So so
all my exes
yeah, all
That's
my
right,
exes live in Texas. So people
said.
on Instagram want you to come to Texas.
We do ship to Texas,
So what?
though.
You see, you know what, my man, they ship to Texas. So go on the website, make sure they come on, and obviously grab a bottle. Let's talk about Gonzo. I always say when it comes to whiskey, I don't care what your opinion is, as long as you buy a bottle and you talk about it. Let's talk about it, and really, let's bring it to the table. I don't expect you to have sunshine, butterfly, and rainbows, but I expect you to have an opinion, and that's what matters. That's what improved the brand, and that's what let people know.
I'm a whiskey reviewer myself.
Correct. So
we're getting out of Aspen soon. We started in Aspen because that's where he lives, but we'll be out and about in Colorado. So again, just shoot us a note or shoot me a DM on Instagram. Either at Gonzo Whiskey or at Bourbon Erin, and we'll come to your town. We'll make sure our distributors head to your town.
So yeah. So there's a few review coming. Erin herself, for people who don't know, she writes whiskey reviews. So you will not hurt her feelings if you review the whiskey at all. She's literally the first person that I can tell you for sure. I've seen a lot of people butt hurt by the fact that somebody says something about their whiskey. Erin is not one of them. Herself, I'm sure she then broke a lot of heart by writing about some whiskeys in her time. So it may be karma or it can be chisme, but one of those two. she would take whatever you bring in because she does not mind. So thank you, Erin. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure having you on. For all of you guys, again, I'm saying Gonzo Whiskey.com. That's GONZO whiskey.com. Make sure you check them out. Buy yourself a bottle. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I want to have Erin back here 2, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, to say, remember when Gonzo was just a beginning brand? Now we are here talking about it. That's the type of conversation I would like to have for all of you here. If you don't know me and this is your first time seeing what I do, I'm sorry to hear it. But I'm Jack. I'm also known as the Hood Sommelier. It's Hood Sommelier anywhere you are, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. And if this is your first time watching me, make sure you check me out. This episode is going to be available on our podcast 3 days from now. The Truth is Barrel Proof. New episode loading at least once a week. And if you want to know more about Erin herself as a person, she's in everything. She's in bourbon, she's in fashion. She always give you the earring of the day on her Instagram so you can know what.
Oh, these are, by the way, Sonia gave me these to me today.
Yeah.
Our girl Sonia. Our
See,
girl
so
Sonia.
she's always showing her little earring of the day, so you can follow her. She's Bourbon Erin. There's that's not even complicated. It's Bourbon Erin, and Erin is with ERIN. Bourbon Erin. You can find, if you love earrings, she's definitely the person to follow. If you want to talk smack about politics, she's probably the person to follow. And if you definitely want to know about the drama in Kentucky bourbon, she definitely the person to also follow. Every now and then I see her little tea spilling, but it's all right. If you're here, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you for joining in, and we will see you next time. Aaron, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see
Cheers.
you soon.